kicks off tonight. Matthew Teague Miller with us. We'll talk to him, a couple of the actors with us. But Matthew will jump in here. The British Invasion. Since we haven't had a chance to talk to you since you got back in town about this British Invasion season, tell us about what's coming up for the summer.
Well, first, it's a big summer for the Showboat. It's our 30th anniversary of professional theater on the Clinton area Showboat, and it's also the first year as a equity theater company. And for our listeners that don't know what equity is, Actors Equity Association is the Broadway Actors Union, and they endorse professional theaters of a certain caliber around the country, and we're officially endorsed by the Broadway Actors Union now, which is going to allow us to do some really cool things. So we needed to do something big. The British Invasion is kind of a follow-up to the season of American Classics we did a few years ago. All of the shows are either set in England or written by great British playwrights or composers, and we kick it off tonight with Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
When you do this, we mentioned, let's talk about that equity part a bit. Do you have to have an equity actor in each show? What are the requirements for you for the Showboat?
Yeah, so it changes. They phase in a couple of different things. Actors Equity doesn't just represent actors, but also stage managers. So for this first season as an equity theater, we have to have at least one equity stage manager or one equity actor in each show. But as you'll notice as the season goes along, the shows towards the end of the season are going to have more than that.
How does that all work? How do you get them? Say, for example, who's the equity actor or the equity stage in the first show?
There's a couple of different things that we can do as an equity theater now. We get the opportunity to hire Broadway actors. For instance, for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the fella playing the title role is a Broadway actor who lives in New York that was just in the Broadway production of The Book of Mormon, coming directly to us and performing the role of Joseph. I hired him because he happens to be a University of Cincinnati College Conservatory alumni on my alma mater, and we had a mutual friend and we connected. The other thing we get to do though is offer equity contracts and thus their equity union status to young actors and stage managers who are building their career and at that point in their career. In fact, by the end of the summer, both of the gentlemen that I'm sitting with right now will be members of the Actors Equity Association because of their work at the Showboat. So it's a little bit of both. For Blythe Spirit, which is the second show of the season, equity actor David Coolidge, who was Felix a couple of years ago in The Odd Couple, opposite me. He was in the Broadway national tour of Jason Robert Brown's Tony Award-winning Parade. He is, a professional actor that works around the country, and he's a longtime friend, and we hired him, not just a friend of mine, but a friend of the Showboats. So those are some examples.
Okay. Looking at the season, how's it all shape up? I know you just got the rehearsals underway. Everybody arrived a couple weeks ago now, week and a half ago.
Yeah.
Is it always a rush? You come in here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And take off.
Yeah, we get here and it's full sprint right out of the gate. I mean, it's the actors had their first rehearsal 9 days ago, and then they opened tonight. Which is insane, especially for a show like Gentleman's Guide, because Gentleman's Guide's not just a difficult show musically and from an acting standpoint, but from a technical standpoint. Nick, for example, he's got a bazillion costume changes because he plays 8 different characters in the show. So, that alone requires rehearsal time. We had a special costume change rehearsal for him on his day off because he needed more time to try to get these costumes on and off in such a quick manner. So it's a sprint. It's a sprint from the minute we get to Clinton until, we're driving away at the end of the summer. It's 5 shows in 12 weeks is really, really a breakneck pace.
And these two actors, they may contribute in this one. One question I told you last year, as I left says, I had a question for you this year.
Yeah.
It shows back to last year. It probably pertained on maybe a perception, and these gentlemen can help out too.
Okay.
They're not knowing who you're going to bring in. I'm assuming I've been making the assumption that actors, performers like applause.
They seem to, yes.
Yeah. Last year in particular, you did 3 shows, where the end of the show, you don't. I mean that you don't. You don't have that rousing production number of Little Mermaid. You don't have the rousing production number of a number that kind of gets the audience geared up to give you that reaction that actors want.
Yep.
You when you talk about Cabaret, the Superstar.
Yeah, Maury.
Yeah, Maury. The shows end almost. You don't want to say it down, but that's the way the shows are. How do you need to have that discussion? These shows, when it ends, you're not going to get the applause?
I do remember once or twice last summer acknowledging that this particular show is not the kind of show you're going to be getting a huge response for in the middle or even at the end of the show. But we don't know what to expect. Just keep doing what we're doing and we'll see how people respond. I remember having that conversation. But I will say, Cabaret ended in such a way that there was one performance. To my grave, it'll be one of the most memorable theater experiences I've ever had, where we got to the very end of the show and the actors bowed and the audience sat there in stunned silence because of how the play ended. They bowed 3 times, and it wasn't until the lights went up that they were like, oh, we're supposed to clap, and there was a smattering of applause. And it was tremendous because to me, while applause feels great and, standing ovations are really exciting when they happen, there was something so much even more affirming to me that we were doing exactly what we were supposed to be doing by having that emotional impact on an audience that they were so stunned that they didn't know what to do. That was, to me, it was tremendous and extraordinarily memorable. I mean, what did you guys experience?
Nick and Ben for last year says those productions. How was that, Nick, particularly, because you mentioned Cabaret. You were the MC in that. If you remember that show. How was that when, I said everybody likes applause. Everybody likes that pat on the back. And all of a sudden, the show ends and there's nothing.
Yeah, that was actually, I think, to this day, my favorite moment in the theater. As a performer, I felt as if I've done my job correctly. Applause is great, but when you can leave an audience so stunned and really thinking about changing, and thinking in new ways, and just the you could hear a pin drop, and it was truly magnificent. I remember leaving the stage, and we were like, what just happened?
It was amazing.
We all were just kind of in a state of did we really do that? We affected them, I think, so much, and it's still to this day my favorite moment in the theater.
Ben, you played in Tuesdays with Maury, if I remember right. Yeah. Another one of those shows that ends without that rousing production number, without something. I was going to bring it says if you see Kinky Boots, you might have the audience dancing in the aisle at the end anyway. That spurs that kind of reaction. Mm-hmm. It wasn't there.
No.
How do you feel?
I feel good because that's it's as actors and directors and designers and management teams, it's our job to sort of tell the whole human experience, and Tuesdays with Maury was part of it and Little Mermaid was part of it, and it's I think something that the Showboat does so well is really find a place for every single audience member that wants to come see a show, because I feel like it's our responsibility to tell the whole story.
We considered adding a reprise of Under the Sea to the end of Tuesdays with Maury, but it just... I'm kidding.
Matthew, tell us what Ben and Nick, you got back.
Lucky me, huh? Yeah.
Ben, you guys said you had the mic. Tell us, I know you were. I think you were in last year for one of the shows, maybe Tuesday, one of the shows. But remind people, where's Ben come from? Well, how'd you end up at the Showboat again?
Yeah, I go to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. I'm a music theater major. I'm going into my senior year, and just through connections, ended up here last year, and this year didn't even audition anywhere else. I knew this is where I wanted to be.
You like the lineup of shows?
Yeah, love it.
Did you have the characters that you wanted to play in each show already picked out?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I said, I think I fit in these shows. Please put me somewhere. I mean, Joseph and Tommy are, cast albums, soundtracks, albums that have been on my entire life. But I wasn't all too familiar with Gentleman's Guide, which is, you know, you might call it the centerpiece of my summer. But yeah, it was pretty new to me.
You obviously you wanted to get in acting at what point? When did you decide this was what you wanted to do?
I did my first show when I was in 4th grade. I was in Seussical Junior, and I sort of just, you know, kept doing shows, kind of, you know, doing any type of school or community theater I could get into. Starting sophomore year of high school, I started going to a performing arts high school, and that's, you know, I got pretty serious around that point, obviously. And now I'm in school and hoping to, I don't see the end in sight at all, so.
And you will you be going back? Or you graduated yet, or you got to?
I have one more year.
One more year, so you'll go back in the fall, and
Yep.
then.
And then I'm just a human,
Then
just an actor.
You'll head on out to see what you can find.
Yeah.
Coming back to Clinton, how's that been? You were here last year. I think you were here all summer. Feel you come back this year, go, oh, I remember this.
Yeah. I mean, all my castmates will tell you. As soon as I got back, all I would say for the first couple of days was like, I feel like I was just here.
Yep.
It, you know, the year in between just flew by. I feel like I got it down to such a system when I was here last year. Like, oh, these are, you know, this is where I go to breakfast. This is, you know, like the route that I take, and I really found like such a home of sorts here last summer. So it feels really good to be able to come back to something that feels so familiar.
So, you mentioned the Gentleman's Guide is kind of your center. Tell us about your role. How do you? We mentioned a little bit about the play, but what's your part?
Sure. So I play Monty Navarro, who is a young British man, and he has just found out that he is in the line of succession to become Earl of Highhurst, which is comes with a lot of fame and money and influence in, you know, the area. And so he has just found out that he's part of the family that sort of, you know, the line of succession is in this family line that he's just found out he's a part of. And so he tries to, you know, become sort of buddy-buddy with them, and they don't quite accept him with open arms, and so he decides the natural next step is that he's just got to murder him so he can, you know, get to that earldom in his lifetime.
But in a stuffy, British, polite kind of way.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
super nice, super, you know, has great manners,
It's hilarious.
and happens to be a murderer.
So you're not really a mean character.
No. Unassuming. A gentleman.
How do you? Obviously, it's. I'm assuming. Do we call it, Matthew? Do we call this a farce kind of a show, or does it quite fit into that category you mentioned?
It's kind of a farce. I mean, I keep referring to it as a musical comedy in the old-fashioned kind of way, where it's really light and fluffy and fun, and yeah.
So is it a fun character to play then?
Definitely.
As you do it.
Yeah. I'm having fun.
Nick, you were here last year. Obviously, we mentioned a couple of roles. How did you end up back here again?
Oh, well, I had such a good time last year. You know, did some great shows. And then we did Closing Follies, and Maddie announces the whole season. And I went, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. That's a dream show. I'd love to do that show. Oh, you want me to do it? All right, where's the dotted line? Here we go. Thank you very much.
Are you here all summer in other roles, or is this the only show?
I'm in 2 other shows besides this.
Oh, you're
I'll
here
be
for
in,
a while.
Yeah, I'll be in Joseph and Tommy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about you mentioned you play all the characters who die.
Yes.
That,
yes. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Well, he already said he killed them all.
No,
So
yeah.
he's spoiled. So.
I never said I was successful.
Yes, I play the Dysquith family. They are this rude, pompous royal family who just are a cast of crazy, wacky characters. I play 6 men, 2 women. All of them have different costumes and wigs and facial expressions, voices and body shapes. It's insane. It's kind of like I have a split personality disorder, because it's really I have like 17 seconds to really get into the next character for each time. It's kind of exciting and also scary at the same time, but I'm having a blast.
How was that? Basically, you turn around and you come back as somebody else.
Honestly, it's when you get into those costumes, and it's always when you have that moment off stage, you have to remember who you're going into, like what does this person want, why are they this way, like did something happen. It's a lot of prep work for that, and then it all has to be like in a split second, like changed, you know. So like I have to go from a drunken priest into a royal, like the Earl, like who's just this bear of a man and just mean to everybody. So it's fun to like really take time to like figure out who these characters are and then just go back and forth between all of them.
Do you ever get confused of who you are?
Yep, all the time. All the time.
But that's off stage.
Yeah, sometimes I'll yell at someone. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Adalbert just came out. I'm so sorry.
So when you come to the show, you may think you're this, but you're...
Yeah. Some people, it'll be hard to recognize, but like once you get it, you're like, oh, you're going to be playing every single person. So it's exciting where, like, when you know as soon as I go off stage, I'm coming back as someone else. So it's very exciting.
Nick, I know since you played some characters last year, is that kind of your niche of playing the oddball characters? You fall into that, or is it just how do you fall? You've fallen into that at least on the Showboat. People may recognize that.
I mean, I fall into it. I think a lot of places. It's like the way I look, the way I can characterize. I have great timing. I think. We'll let everyone else decide. But I love to do dramatic roles like Tommy. Like I'm doing like a completely departure. Like I'm playing a really nasty, awful man who's honestly kind of scary and not fun at all. So it's I like to do all these different departures and different things. So but yeah, I mean, I just happen to be always, not always, but most of the time, like a fun, exciting, like character actor, which is really, it's always been fun. I have a great time doing it.
Ben, how about you? Is there a type of character that you like to play or that you seem to gravitate towards?
I am fortunate enough to kind of have been put all over the place, especially on the Showboat stage. I did all sorts of different kinds of roles and different like places in the structure of each show. So I've been very fortunate to be able to do all sorts of stuff.
Matthew, how's it getting? Of course, you're not directing this show, but do you get a chance to watch it and kind of? I don't know if you critique the director or not.
So my job as artistic director is to be, I oversee the artistic integrity, for lack of a better word, of the whole season, right? So I get to pick shows, I cast the season, I hire, along with the general manager, hire the designers and technicians. And so, yeah, I bop into rehearsal and I give the director notes from time to time. And I always say to directors, I give two kinds of notes. One kind is just, well, Maddie thinks this and, might suggest this. And then from time to time, I give what is an artistic director note with for the integrity of the boat or for the audiences that we have. I need you to make this adjustment, or I would really like you to make this adjustment. But I mean, I hire top-notch directors, so those times happen few and far between. But that is part of my job, to just be the watchdog, for lack of a better word, for the audience and for our community. Lara, who's directing Gentleman's Guide, she's directed a show the past 2 seasons, plus at one point was even overseeing our deckhand program. She knows this audience, and she doesn't need as much guidance in that regard as maybe some other directors that are coming in from the outside. But yeah, I do that.
There's another question that maybe Ben and Nick can throw in this too. It says, do you find, and obviously you've done shows elsewhere, does each audience or each location have some unique characteristics audience-wise? The Clinton audience different than something you might see in California versus somewhere else? Is there something you kind of learn about the audience?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that that's a director's job, but it's certainly the artistic director's job. There are certain things. If I were to do the cabaret, I mean, last year's production of Cabaret, I pushed all the way up to the line that Clinton, I think, would be okay with. But a different production in San Francisco or in Chicago or a different city might have gone a little bit further, or the opposite direction is true too. I think it's super important for us. I see a director's job and an artistic director's job to build a bridge for the audience into the world of the play. And there are certain bridges that audiences are more reluctant to cross than others. And so understanding who your audience is, who your target audience is, I think is super important for that mission of creating the bridge into the show.
Benedict, as the actor, do you rely on the director to tell you what's going to work for the Clinton audience versus if you're doing one somewhere else? Or do you, since you've been here both and coming back, do you have a sense what the Clinton audience will like?
I think the answer is yes to both of those. We definitely had to adjust, to how different areas react to certain things. In New York, our cabaret last year would have been very tame, very tame. People in New York have seen some crazy stuff, but here it's we really changed people's lives by doing just that kind of pushing that boundary, and I think it's also it's a teamwork. It's a lot of knowing your audience. It's making sure you have the right director, the right actors, the right intentions, and making sure you can create a relationship between the audience so that they understand. And I think that goes for everywhere you work, everywhere.
I just want to piggyback on something he said about teamwork. I think that's a really important acknowledgement, because I am the kind of leader where I will more often than not turn to my assistant or turn to my general manager and say, what do you think? Is this going to work? Are they going to be okay with this? Or can we go further? Ultimately the decision is mine, because the buck stops with me. But I think that acknowledging that it is a teamwork, and there was one or two things that came up this week with Gentleman's Guide, that I was on one position and Lara was in another position, and JK, our general manager, was in another position, and we all sort of went round and round and decided it was not my position that we ended up going with, because other people made a compelling argument for where they stood about a certain subject. So I'm sorry, Ben.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, every city you go to has its own energy about it, and I think that as long as we are holding true to the integrity of the stories that we've chosen to tell, I think we can get away with a whole lot, but I think it's very cool to feel like we can change some hearts or something like that.
And I think one of the things that makes us be able to, quote, get away with a lot is the way that the Clinton audience loves the Showboat, and they trust us. They come into the theater 5 times a season, sometimes more, to see shows more than once, and they know that what they're getting is has integrity and is not pushing boundaries just for the sake of pushing boundaries. They know us and they love us and they trust us because of that. I think that's a really important thing. So it's a mutually respectful relationship in that regard.
Benedict, since you were coming back, does the rest of the cast, from a person that looked at you as kind of says, show us around town, where do we go, what do we do? Since you've been here, where's the Hy-Vee store, and where?
Right. Yeah.
Do they look to you too, and maybe I don't know if there's other returners or not, but the rest of them kind of look for you to tell them where to go?
Yeah, a little bit. It's been a lot of, hey, how do you get here? What's the easiest way to get, I want to go to this park, I want to go to this store, what's the best way to do that? But luckily I got some good chances to explore last year, so I feel like I know my way around a little bit.
Nick, do you help lead the way from a personal standpoint, off the stage?
Off the stage, I mean, we just, it's been a great group so far. Everyone's been so accepting and loving and really hardworking, and so it makes it easy for us to be friends outside of work, which is amazing because we all like live together and we all like know each other very well. And going around like the town being like, oh yeah, this is our favorite spot. They're like, ooh, we should all go there. I'm like, yeah, all right, we'll go to Bubba and Mama's. We love it over there. Like, plug. Sponsor us, please.
Sponsor plug. Product placement.
Yes, please. And so it's like amazing to like, show them that like we had such a good time and that they're going to have a great time too, for the new people. And I think right now, like we're 9 days in, as you said, like 9 days in, and we've put up a show, we've lived together, and we've had the greatest time so far doing it.
As you talk, Farley's coming up too. We don't want to forget that because that's next week.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday. So, when I hear British Invasion, I think of the Rolling Stones. I think of the Beatles and that great wave of rock and roll music in the 60s from Great Britain. And if people are like me and they think of that and they like that kind of thing, Tuesday's Follies is a great opportunity to get out of the house and really enjoy that music, because the professional company will be on stage at the Showboat with a live rock band singing that catalog of music. And this year we're taking it to a whole nother level. We've got 3 food trucks that will be out front before the show so people can get something to eat. There's going to be live music on the back deck, weather permitting, before the show, so people can come and get something to eat and relax and then enjoy the great music of the British Invasion. That's Tuesday night, and there are tickets still available.
Get those tickets now. And it says, have you started on next year's season yet?
It is the time of the season, of the time of the year that I'm starting to toss around some ideas, and no, I will not tell you before the closing Follies. Season announcement Follies, buy your ticket now.
I knew if
Dave.
If I didn't ask, you'd be disappointed, right?
Yeah, well, I know your routine, sir.
Yeah. This is your, 5th year? You said. Yeah. To mention, you spoke to the council tonight about some of the upgrade or kind of repainting the Showboat. Will the audience see some of the things you talked about, or is he kind of all behind the scenes?
Yeah, no, I mean, a special thanks to the city of Clinton for the incredible work and the money and the energy that they put into giving our historic riverboat an upgrade. The audience will notice it as soon as they drive up. If you haven't been by the boat lately, drive by, because it got all cleaned up on the outside, the whole new fresh coat of paint. We've repaired a lot of the deckings on the sides and whatnot, and then some of the things that they won't see, like repairing some of the electrical system, remodeling the backstage area in the dressing rooms, all new doors and windows and floors. And I mean, it's just astonishing walking in at the beginning of the season this year and seeing all of the great work that the city of Clinton did for our Showboat was really affirming to what we're doing on the riverboat. I mean, on the Showboat, it's just. It made it feel like people are noticing the great work that's happening on stage when the city does such incredible work to the theater as a whole.
Nick, been anything except to come out and see the show? Is it ready to go? Do you got to run through yet today, or do you take?
No run through today. We finished our final dress last night, and it went very well. It is a extremely fun, fast-paced show, and I'm so excited to have you guys see it. It's going to be it's really exciting.
And 8 characters?
8 characters. Hopefully you'll recognize me.
And Ben, you're the nice guy, but yet
I just won. I don't need to do any costume changes or anything like that. But
you put on a jacket.
I put on a jacket. I never leave the stage. I don't have time for costume change. But I am very proud to share this show, and I think people are really going to like it.
Matthew, just a fun show to come to. Is there some deep, dark, hidden meaning we should look for in a show like this?
I think that people can take whatever meaning from it that they want. It is a great escape and a really fun 2 hours of giggling through the whole thing. I think people City of Clinton in particular is really gonna like this show.
Well, Matthew, appreciate it. You'll be in a couple of weeks with the next. What is the next show?
Next show's Blythe Spirit, the No Coward classic comedy. So excited to be working on that show.
Oh, get your tickets now for the season.
Get your tickets now.
Thanks guys for coming in.
Thank you.